And let me just take a quick look and see.
All of us multitasking.
Let me see here.
Oh, I see you.
Okay. Looks like we are live. I don't see it yet. There we are. Okay, fantastic. All right. Hi, everybody. This is Lainey, and I am coming to you still live from Mexico, from Playa del Carmen, and this is a continuation of our mental health series. Today, I have the great honor of speaking with a dear friend of mine, Dr. Kate Green, and we're going to talk about wellness, health and wellness from the perspective of attachment parenting. Also, Dr. Kate Green is an alternative education consultant. So I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of that thrown in once we get into some of these questions. First, let me just go ahead and welcome you, Kate, and if you could give us just a quick, brief introduction to who you are and how you're going to be coming or approaching the mental health perspective during this interview.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for asking me, because you know I like to talk about kids and healthy development. So basically, I mean, I have a PhD in child development. And a lot of my early work was in attachment parenting and cross-cultural parenting practices. So everything from breastfeeding to co-sleeping to just all kind, baby wearing, all of that. But I do research across the entire lifespan, but I focus heavily on children's developmental patterns. And my biggest learning laboratory is I have 5 kids of my own, ranging from 32, I have to stop and think, down to 14. So I think they've been my biggest teachers. And I have a master's in education, bachelor's in psychology. So I kind of jump between psychology and education. And that's how I landed in child development, because it blends it nicely.
And you and I have had conversations over years about attachment parenting and how world schooling, unschooling is the logical flow from attachment parenting. I think that those that are not familiar with the term attachment parenting, maybe we can start from there and talk about what that is as a philosophy before we actually get into some of these questions.
Sure. Well, it was another one of those terms that I really didn't know I was doing. I didn't have, I was practicing this way of parenting, and we were living in Hawaii, and I met this wonderful group of people who I'm still friends with. And, they suddenly introduced me to this term of attachment parenting. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, I'm already doing that. Much the way with world schooling, unschooling, we were doing that and then discovered there was a term. However, attachment parenting is really where you're focusing on keeping that child close to you. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be with them, 24 hours all the time. It's not obsessive, but it's kind of more of a following the baby's needs, watching them, kind of letting them drive the show, so to speak. If they're hungry, feed them. Optimal, of course, is breastfeeding, but we recognize that not everybody can do, we've got adoptive parents and foster parents, things like that, and they can still practice a lot of the attachment parenting as well. But optimum, of course, would be breastfeeding, just for many, many reasons, health and emotional development. Co-sleeping is another one, or having the baby as close as possible, whether it's the co-sleepers that go next to the bed, that sort of thing, because parenting doesn't end at 9 p.m. I mean, it's really just kind of, that's a hard shock from new parents, going, but what do you mean? They should go in their crib and I should leave them and then I can get plenty of sleep. No, it doesn't. And if they need you at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., sadly every hour, they need you. And so it's this warmth and consistent response to your infant, and then following along as they get older, doing the same type of thing, though by the time they're teens, you don't necessarily have to get up with them in the middle of the night, but it's that same responsive and warm parenting.
Uh, and for those, well, the main purpose of attachment parenting, I'm assuming among the scholars, is to help create a healthy attachment. And that's based on attachment theories, which deal with the psychological, like secure attachment, and I think there's 4 of them. And I think the main goal is to helping raise a healthy human being, is so they feel safe and secure in the world. Yeah.
Exactly. That's that sense of security, and how we feel about the world and about relationships. When we have that, we call it the secure base. If you watch a little one at the playground, I think this is the best descriptor of the secure base. And some of them are clingier. Some of them want to stay right next to mom or dad and they're holding on. Then others will wander off, but they're looking back. Is she still there? Is he over there? They want to know that that caregiver is nearby. That's the secure base. We have that emotionally as well. Even as adults, we want to know we have some kind of security, and we want to be able to trust in our world and trust that it isn't a terrifying, scary place. It feels a little bit like it at the moment, which we'll get to. But the more secure we are in our world and our relationships, the more independent we are, actually. The more comfortable we are going off and exploring. Some people worry that if we carry that baby in a sling, if we sleep with them, they're going to grow up so clingy. It's actually the reverse. So the more securely attached a child is, the more independent they become, the more confident. Temperament comes into play. We all know some people are shy, some people are not, so you have to kind of look at temperament as well. But the security of emotions is a huge factor. And it's coming out during times such as this.
Exactly. And so, in your opinion, how do you think children are handling a time of uncertainty? Because historically, we've never experienced anything like this. And so it's not like the parents have the experience of how to move through this with grace. That being said, what do you feel, or what do you think is coming up for children right now that don't understand and have the tools to actually move through in uncertainty?
Exactly. And I like the way you talk about that, giving them the tools. They need the tools, but parents need the tools as well. I mean, my God, we wake up in the morning and you think, oh, I wonder what today's going to bring. We don't have the tools. I teach in a psychology program, and we're discussing, okay, what, we're all, kind of thrown off ourselves. And so how do we help others and their, parents, and then how do parents help their children? One thing I think with parenting is to imagine yourself as this shield. So you are kind of the shield. You have to block, not entirely block the whole event out, because we can't, and no, we shouldn't. But you have to kind of monitor it, and you have to be that protective shield to your children. And I mean, in some ways, it's kind of easier because you've got them at home right now. Everybody's staying in the house, so you can monitor them more closely. And you can see, try to see who they're talking to, what news that they're taking in. And but you have to kind of just imagine being that protective shield to them. You are the hand sanitizer of your child's world.
And that couldn't be a more like on point analogy right now. How do you think children are experiencing stress? And should we as parents be worried about our kids and their stress level?
Oh, very much. And that's not to put pressure on parents, but we have to be aware that our children know. And they know, from infants and toddlers know. I mean, they don't understand what a virus is, but they know there's a great deal of stress going on and there's tension. Toddlers and preschoolers, you might see, we can talk more about each level's ways of dealing with this, but they're acting out a lot of times, or they're needier, or even, you know, kind of the older age children are just more sensitive. They might cry more. You might see regression. Just many things. And of course, what happens when children act out like that and parents are stressed? So we are like, stop that, you know, or we're shouty, or we are not doing a great job necessarily. And some people may be doing a fantastic job, but we're more prone to not doing a good job in our own parenting because our needs are so, you know, there's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and we're feeling very worried. It's like, where's our toilet paper coming from? And, you know, which equates to, will I have enough food to feed my family? Are we going to get sick? I'm going to do, you know, just the death and all of that. And so that comes out in how we parent. Children are stressed. They're needier. They're maybe, you know, more poorly behaved, and it feeds into each other. So we become into this negative cycle. And we're the ones as adults that have to step back and recognize it and break it and break that cycle.
So, I mean, there's a lot of questions that I have based on what you just said. I think I want to take this from the child's perspective. You talked about the foundation for attachment parenting is really to create, for the parents to create that safe connection and understanding that the world is a safe place. Therefore, they feel safe and secure as they develop through the rest of their lives. And you also just talked a little bit about the potential regression of a child who may feel like they need to be held more, or they may need, you know, may be acting out, or some other manifestation of sort of regression. As parents, what do we say to our child if they're going through stressful times and still understand that it's our goal and our job to create safety for them? Mm-hmm. And if we get triggered that they are sort of acting out, how do we manage their emotions while handling our own emotions?
Well, it's a difficult one. It is. And as I say, I mean, every day is bringing something new. So we're all learning this you know, as we go. You know, I think perhaps let's break it down, because if we talk about it from the developmental ages, I think it might be easier, because there are different things that we might do, obviously, between toddlers and teenagers. There might be some overlap. But, you know, so for instance, if you know, you might have the baby with you, you might be nursing, or the toddler is playing near you, you're scrolling along on your phone, you're reading all of this, or the news is on. They are not necessarily, you know, understanding, taking all of this in. And I'm talking, as I say, the very smallest of our children. But cortisol levels are soaring within you, right? I mean, I know that I find when I'm watching some of these things, I can feel that my chest is tightening. I'm like, are my lungs going? You know, what is happening? I have to realize, no, that's, you know, that's a stress reaction. And so an infant is going to feel that when they're next to you, or a toddler that, you know, they're sitting next to you, maybe they're playing with their blocks on the floor or something like that. And they're feeling it. They know that you are exuding this level of stress. So you might see, like, the baby might be harder to nurse. They're arching. They're just kind of getting a lot of indigestion almost, just as we are. You know, you might see your toddler kick those blocks out of the way, not have the same, you know, what they, you know, a couple of weeks ago, they could build a 3 or 4 block tower. Now one block falls off and they're frustrated. So those are things to watch for with these, with your little ones in terms of that. And of course, in regression, they might, you know, if they were already potty trained, they might go back to having more accidents, or they want to nurse more, but not, it's more for comfort than it is for, you know, kind of being hungry. They can often be more fearful of strangers or noises. Things that normally didn't bother them might make them jump now, and just kind of just be jumpier, you know. Changes in diet, not wanting to eat something that they've eaten before, or, you know, not willing to try new things. there's just this kind of sense, a little bit of sense of fear. Um, some of that is just by its nature of being a toddler, but you also need to monitor and think, that's new. I wonder why that is happening. And so we're not necessarily going to have a conversation with them, but we're going to have a conversation with ourselves. And we're going to, monitor their behavior. And we're going to think, was I watching? Was I scrolling on my phone? What was I doing when those behaviors started to manifest? How, be really self-reflective over how much news or how much social media that you're taking in, because that stress is going to go up and your little one is going to feel that. So the things that we can do to help them in that conversation it's also going to help us. Some of the things that I suggest: bath time routines before bed. Get into the bath with them if you can. Lavender oils in the bath, with both of you or just with the child. Play with them, sing along, massage with lavender diluted, for the age of the child. That's a wonderful way to have this skin to skin conversation, because that's a conversation with them. You're letting them know that you're there for them. You're reducing their stress. I mean, we know that babies, when you massage them, they grow faster. Elderly people, when they're given a massage, and it can just be, through clothes, shoulders, they live longer. I mean, this is important. We need those connections now more than anything. So, have that. That's your conversation with your littles, is to have that gentle touch and to really kind of feel that connection. And you're going to find it helps you too.
And so this is for babies and toddlers. What about for ages 3 to 5? What are your recommendations?
Well, the same. In a lot of ways. I mean, they don't outgrow. You might have a harder time catching them and saying, you're going to relax now, I'm going to give you a massage. But you'll see that you can see a lot of those same regression with toileting accidents, or, they might become more babyish. And just by, well, I can't do that, or, oh no, that kind of whiny, I don't know how to put on my shirt. And you're thinking, you've been able to do that for 2 years, And so those are things you might see. A little bit of lowered, not loss of speech, but lower loss of more complex speech, just like I'm doing now. Maybe bedwetting. Bedwetting can be a biggie as well. And that's perfectly normal. They can have more stomach aches, headaches, not wanting to go to sleep. They don't want to be alone during the night. And by that, if they've already been sleeping alone, or being, maybe they're on a pad in your room or something like that, but now they want to notch it up and come get back into bed with you, or they've been in their own bedroom and now they want to be in your room. So, all those kinds of things, and changes in appetite. So many of the same, but just at a different level.
And is it okay if we move through suggestions for the other ages as well, like maybe the 6 to 12 age group?
Oh, sure. So I mean, in this one, you've got them. They're starting to verbalize it, and they're hearing these scary words on TV, but it's still very black and white. It's like, oh, am I going to die? Is grandma going to die? And they can ask you really glaring things like that. And you're like, stop. I don't want to talk about this, because that's scary for you. But it's important to address their fears in appropriate ways and say, well, some people may die from this, and a lot of people are going to get very sick, but here's what we're going to do as a family to protect us. And here's why we're not going to be around grandma or grandpa, or, and to give them very solid ways that they can feel more in control. Give them their own bottle of hand sanitizer, washing hands, of course, that just make them in charge. We have a little spray bottle of like doTERRA oils and things, and you give that, you'll be the one who sprays around the door, and so just, as I say, solid ways that they can do something to feel a little bit more in control.
And now addressing stress with teens 13 and up, do you have any suggestions for how to support that?
Sure. Well, I mean, teens are reading. They're in there. They know what's going on. There's a difference between 13 and 18. The kind of the normal teen years. So the way that they're going to interpret it, but they're still very much, you know, well, how is this going to impact me? That so if you hear that, don't worry that, oh my gosh, they sound really quite selfish on this, but that's a normal part of teen thing. It's like, it's all, it's about me. And that's a worry. But they also, a lot of teens, in fact, I've seen, up until a couple of days ago here in Florida, teens are out playing basketball together. They're out, hanging out. I don't know, the parents are not controlling them very well. It's kind of sad, but they have this feeling that they are omnipotent. It will not, we're bigger than that, and I'm braver. And while you don't want to knock that sense of self out of them, you also want to make them aware, no, you're part of this. Just because it's not hitting teens and young people in the same numbers as the elderly, explain why it's important, that their role in this, and not passing it on. So they have to understand their role. This is where these conversations are important, not to scare them, but to make them part of the team. And I'm big on family teams. Family being a team, so your littlest one can have this spray bottle, to keep the germs away. But your teen is also part of reminding about gloves, reminding parents about kind of where to get groceries from. They can help clean the groceries when you have delivery. They can, all these types of things. By giving them that responsibility, you pull them into this family system. And again, it's like the little ones, you empower them. Because I think that's a big thing with all of us. We feel, hey, this is out of our control a lot of times. And that raises our stress level, because if I have no control over something, then my stress is going to go up. But if I step back and say, what can I do as a parent to protect my family? What skills can I give my children at differing levels to help protect us and make us part of this team? Then that really does help. It lowers their stress. They can have a lot of the same symptoms, withdrawal from family and friends. You might see that. You might see forgetfulness, changes in diet. They can be all kinds of the same things: stomachache, headache, rashes sometimes. I'm hearing from a lot of people that their teens are, they're sleeping during the day and they're awake all night, which for some of the world scholars and unschoolers, we're like, that's normal. But for other people who haven't lived like this, that's kind of thrown parents off. They're not used to that. So, give them, again, it's a conversation and monitoring it. A 13-year-old, you might want to be a little bit more involved and say, well, let's do this, watch this funny TV show before bed. Then why don't you take a bath? Here's some, lavender. You can massage even at that age if they're open to it. Just a back massage. Those kinds of things can help, and trying to keep them on some kind of a pattern, give them that flow to their days. And if their days previously were, I've got one who, I think he's up now, what is it, 1 o'clock? But that's not new. That's our pattern. If he started getting up at 6 a.m., I would be stressed. I'd be like, what's wrong with you? Because he has his friends from different parts of the world that he's talking to, kind of late at night, and he's gaming. So again, it's changes and trying to keep people onto somewhat of the same flow of the day, because those, we all do better when there's some structure, even if our structure is different from everybody else's. So.
Yeah, that's so true. And also in terms of connecting with teens and even tweens, what is your thought about giving them something? Well, not giving them, that's the wrong word. Creating something together that they can own or do or contribute to as something that's within their power. What kind of thoughts do you have around that? And do you have any suggestions on what that may or may not look like?
Are you talking kind of art or online connection?
I mean, no, maybe I wasn't clear. I think that we're talking about living in a time of uncertainty, and creating something that we do have control over seems to be, in my experience, one of the steps that we can take in order to move through times of uncertainty with grace, with some grace, right? With some control, with some power. What kind of conversations can you have with maybe tweens and teens to empower them to have some control over something that's so big and happening globally that they don't have control?
Well, I think, and that's part of that conversation, is to share, again, developmentally appropriate. 8-year-olds to 18 is a different conversation, is toned down. But to have that and express your own um, concerns are about, oh, I don't know how long we're going to be in this. I don't know what the summer brings. I don't know that. However, what I do know is, again, how we're keeping our immediate family safe, how we're getting groceries, what our backup plans are, where neighbors are, that if they needed to get, if they needed some help. For instance, with my family, I've got one son in Australia, another in Chicago. They're all over the place. Two stepsons in the UK. So we created a Google Doc with everybody's contact information. And my younger two are 14 and 17. They were on that Google Doc as well. And they know grandmas, not just because, I realized that my son in Australia, I was like, we talk every day, but we talk on Facebook Messenger. Well, heck, all too well how suddenly Facebook can be taken away from you. It's gone. So I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I don't even have his new telephone number. So I made sure that we had street addresses for everybody. We had telephone numbers, not only of them, but of their partners, their work address and telephone number. And that's all in our Google Docs. And that's shared with each of us, so that there's that sense of security that if I can't get through to one of them for a couple of days, I've got their partner, I've got their boss, and the same way with the 14-year-old has that information as well. So I think, that's a really good way a tangible way of providing that sense of security, for each family. And I also, I think it's a responsible thing to do at the moment, but it's also, just kind of gives them that, okay, I know who to, I have that information to hand.
And since we've been focusing so much on the children, again, let's swing back around to the parents who are practicing and supporting our kids, practicing attachment parenting and trying to be everything for our children. But also, how do we take that those stresses and that focus and turn it inward when we need to? Any thoughts about that?
Well, it's so hard. I'm trying to do some writing at the moment. I'm grading papers and I'm thinking, for my doctoral students, I'm like, I don't know. I can't focus. I'll go make cookies, so I, I jump off all too easily. So I would say, a lot of the things that I would suggest doing with small children or your teens is play with them, sit down and build blocks, do a jigsaw puzzle, bake cookies together. I'm probably eating too many carbs because we're cooking. My daughter loves to bake and to make bread. And so we're doing those things together. But, play for adults, we often call it flow. And so, if you've ever been in flow and you're doing something that you really enjoy doing, you kind of shut out the outside world. And you look and think, how's that been 2 hours? And you've forgotten about all the external stressors, the work and the dropping stock market, all that sort of stuff. So you might not want to, you might think, I cannot sit down and do another tea party. It's, this is awful. But maybe there's something, maybe building Legos is more fun, or drawing together, put in a real, pull out some nice art material and you sit and do yours, and let your child or children work near you. If they want, invite them to. Don't mandate it, but invite them to. And the same as I was talking about the lavender bath with your littles, that's good for you too. And so all of these things that we do with our children, they might feel like, oh, I shouldn't be making another batch of cookies. But if it helps you to de-stress, then do it. The big thing, I would really say, is limit your social media, limit your exposure to the news. Say twice a day, 3 times a day, this is when I'm, not just sit on it all the time, because it's easy to. And there you lose track of time and you think, oh my gosh, I've lost an hour, looking through my news feed, and it's been negative and you feel stressed. So seek out positive experiences.
That's so important. So as you've been speaking, we're doing this live. As you know, there was somebody in our World Schoolers group who actually left a comment about that, or a question. And she writes, they homeschool and usually things are chill, but lately her 2 youngest, ages 10 and 4, are all over her. So she's doing a good attachment parenting job, but it's giving her the feeling that she's feeling smothered and irritable, and she can't work, read, or even go on a Zoom call without them literally on her. How does a parent who's doing a good job doing all the stuff that you suggested balance their own needs for a little bit of me time?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, which one of us hasn't locked ourselves in the toilet going, no, go away? It's even the most seasoned parents will want to do that. But if they're doing that, that shows you that you're doing a fantastic job, because they are using you as a way to reduce their stress. Now, they may be raising yours a little bit, but they trust you, and that you are their comfort. You are their secure base. So they're going to you with that need. So yay, great job, mom. Even though it can be really exhausting, can be draining, I would suggest, doing some of the things that I've just been talking about. Do a very intense type of interaction with them. The massages, but you can also do, put on like lavender oil, diffuse it, and sit and play with them and read with them, and do, really kind of focus on them with nothing else around them for whatever it is, half an hour, an hour. Give them that intense focus. And then you might be able to find that gradually, after they've had more of that, that you're able to pull away for longer periods of time. It might not be one-to-one. It's not like, okay, I'm going to give you an hour, now you give me 30 minutes. But the more that you support them and you recognize and acknowledge those needs, the more comfortable they're going to feel, the lower their stress, the more you will just be able to take that time. And it's hard. It's just dang hard work, just as when they were babies and you were up every hour, so.
And what I loved with what you just said is give them your intense attention and connection, because that's what they really want. Give that to them. And even though it may feel like, oh my gosh, they're all over me, it'll give them the attachment, the security to go step back a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of that intensity, that real focus, to where they know that they've got your focus as well. You might want to reflect, because sometimes we're playing or we're chatting, but we're not really. We're kind of over here, or we're a little bit, we're multitasking, and kids know that. They can pick up on that, and they'll become even more clingy or whiny or demanding if they know they don't have your full focus. So, I mean, it really can help you as well, lower your stress. But it doesn't mean that you have to do another tea party if that's what you I hate board games. I mean, I put that right out. I hate board games. I know. Oh, all of my friends are like, they're like the board game champs. I've read all the research. I know they're great. Dang it, I hate it. There's a couple of ones that I will play, like Uno. So, to me, I'll say, okay, we'll play Uno, or I love Legos. I'll play Legos for a long time. Or I'm, a super reader. We'll read together. Just not Monopoly. You could just shoot me in the foot before me. Right? So find something that you do like and that they do like, and that's what you can focus on doing.
Great advice. And by the way, I love board games. I love
them. You do. I've been in Mexico with you. Yeah, I know. I'm just like, oh, board games.
So in closing, is there anything else that you'd like to leave with our community as a way of supporting or words of encouragement?
Be kind to each other. Everybody's having a really tough time with this. Be gentle. If they want to stay in their pajamas all day, if you want to stay in your pajamas all day, do it. Make it fun. Laugh about it, and say, hey, we're having a pajama party. Let's make popcorn, throw popcorn at each other. I mean, be silly, be goofy, be gentle. Don't put so much stress on yourself. I'm seeing parents that don't normally homeschool, and there's so many packets coming home. Your child will be okay. Do what you need to do with that child, or what they want to do. Follow their lead, and just play and be silly as much as you can, and eat the cookies.
And as somebody who practices attachment parenting still to this day, I can tell you that the rewards are a relationship built from trust, and it's a powerful way to move through the planet. And even when they leave, they still have that clear attachment that's based on a relationship, based on trust. So good job, Mom. Good job, everybody. And do you have any suggestions of where people can learn more about what you do and also about attachment parenting in general?
Yes, yeah. Well, I can share, or I think you have it, my website. Happy, and you can always contact me there or on Facebook. But I've also written a more extensive article about this, and it's going to be on Attachment Parenting International. It's going to be they have a blog, so it'll be on the blog and on their website. So that's a really good resource. Attachment Parenting International has some great articles and good people to help, if you need more in-depth help.
Thank you so much. And then I'll also tag you on this thread, so I'll have you leave those links here. Thank you, Kate. I am just so grateful that you said yes to jumping on and helping so many people in our community.
Well, thank you for doing it. It's really important.
All right. Take care. Bye. Bye.